So you're staring down the barrel of a Power BI tenant-to-tenant migration. It's a huge project, one of the most complex things you can do in the Power BI world. And if you're facing this, you know the stakes are high. And getting it right starts with one single, fundamental question.
Okay, so you've got a Power BI tenant migration on your plate. It is a massive undertaking, right? And it's so easy to get completely lost in all the details, moving reports, dashboards, permissions. But where do you even begin?
Here's the thing. The single most important question you have to answer before you do anything else, it's not about your reports, it's not about your users, it's all about your core infrastructure. And your answer to this one question is going to define your entire migration strategy.
All right, let's dive in. To really get why that infrastructure question is such a big deal, we first need to take a step back and look at the sheer scope of what we're actually moving. And trust me, it's a lot more than just the pretty visuals.
You know, we're not just talking about the reports themselves. We're talking about the entire data pipeline, everything from the front-end dashboards down to the semantic models, the data flows that feed them, and this is a big one, the workspaces with all their specific permissions. And then you've got the gateways, the refresh schedules, all the nuts and bolts connecting to your source systems.
With all those moving parts, it is easy to get overwhelmed. But what if we could simplify it? Well, we can. We can actually boil this entire complex decision down to one key question that cuts right through the noise. Do you need virtual machines?
And here is the answer, plain and simple. The decision to use VMs isn't a preference, it's a technical requirement. And it's dictated entirely by where your data physically lives. If your data is on-premises or locked away in a private network, you need VMs, period. If it's all in the cloud, you don't. It's really that straightforward.
But why? Why does this one thing, the location of your data, have such a massive impact on your migration plan? Well, to understand that, we have to look at the piece of technology that acts as the secure bridge between your private network and the Power BI cloud service.
Let me introduce you to the on-premises data gateway. Its entire job is to sit inside your secure network, talk to your private data sources, and then safely shuttle data back and forth with the Power BI service in the cloud. Think of it as your data's personal ambassador to the outside world.
And this leads us to a non-negotiable, unbreakable rule. For the gateway to do its job, it must be installed on a machine, usually a virtual machine, that is on the exact same local network as your data source. It can't phone it in from the cloud, it has to be an insider. Okay, so now that we know the rule, let's put it to the test. Let's look at how this applies in some real-world scenarios that you're definitely going to run into. We'll check out the 3 most common data sources and see when a VM becomes mandatory.
First up, databases. Let's say you've got a traditional SQL server sitting in your data center. That's on-prem, it's in a private network. So you need a gateway, which means you absolutely need a VM. But if you're using Azure SQL, which already lives in the cloud, Power BI can talk to it directly. No gateway, and therefore, no VM needed. Simple.
And guess what? The exact same logic applies perfectly to analysis services. If you're running a live connection to an on-prem SSAS cube, that connection has to go through a gateway that's running on a local VM. But if you've already moved up to Azure Analysis Services in the cloud, Power BI connects to it natively. No middleman required.
And finally, let's look at SharePoint. If you're pulling data from an old-school SharePoint server farm, you already know the answer, don't you? It's inside your private network, so you need a gateway on a VM. But if you're on the modern SharePoint Online, it's cloud to cloud. No VM is necessary.
When you lay it all out like this, the pattern just becomes crystal clear, doesn't it? You can see this perfect divide. If the component is marked as on-prem, the answer for needing a VM and a gateway is always yes. If it's a cloud service, the answer is always no. This is the core principle of your entire infrastructure plan.
So now that you've answered the big VM question, your focus shifts. You go from being an architect to being a builder. This means tackling the practical, hands-on work of rebuilding these key pieces in your new tenant.
Now listen closely because this is crucial. You cannot migrate gateways. You have to start from scratch. This means installing a brand new gateway, connecting it to your new target tenant, and then meticulously going through and reestablishing every single connection. You'll rebind each data set, you'll re-enter every credential, and you'll set up all those refresh schedules all over again. And it's a very similar manual story for your workspaces. The process involves exporting a full inventory of your users and their specific roles, and then, one by one, recreating each workspace in the destination.
You have to carefully reassign every admin, member, contributor, and viewer to make sure that no one loses the access they need to do their job.
So what does all this mean for you right now, before you even start the migration? It means your number one job is documentation. Success is determined before you even begin, and it starts with creating a super comprehensive inventory of every single asset you have.
This right here is your essential pre-flight checklist. Before you move a single report, you need a detailed record of every workspace, every user role, every dataset and its source, every data flow, every gateway, and even your licenses. Having this complete map isn't just a nice-to-have, it is the blueprint that will prevent chaos and ensure a smooth migration.
And so we come full circle. It all comes back to that one simple rule. On-prem data needs a gateway on a VM. The entire complexity of your migration infrastructure hinges on this. With this principle as your guide, you can now look at your own environment not with confusion, but with clarity. You have the key. So, are you ready to map your territory?